Hey folks, David Stewart here. Did you know that film is better than digital video? Did you know that? I've been seeing this sentiment pop up a lot lately on social media, and the reason is because there's a new Harry Potter series coming to HBO, and they had a preview of it, and what everyone noticed was, hey, this looks just like the Chris Columbus Harry Potter movie from 25 years ago, only very gray. What happened? Why does digital video look so much worse than film? And I have some answers to that. Take a look here and you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about here. You have a lot of similar shots because it's basically going to be like a remake of that first movie, even though just because you're adapting the same material. The original Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, this is going to be Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. You're going to have a lot of similar shots, which is going to invite comparisons with the original movie. You're wondering, why are they making an HBO adaptation of this? It's because we're in the milking phase of the IP death cycle, right? Harry Potter's been out a long time. You've had lots of derivative adaptations. Remember, we had those Newt Scamander movies and Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. These are ways to extract more money from the fans, not necessarily to deliver like new, higher quality things, not to push the franchise to new levels, but to extract money from the people who already like it. And I think this is another example of that. We're milking the IP. So it's time to do a remake so that people will get interested in the IP again. Why not do a remake? Because people are going to watch it. It's Harry Potter. It's one of the best-selling books of all time. But you can see right here the color grading is really different. There's this really very cool key light on the character in the new series, which is on the top, compared to this warm, very this natural flesh tone from the actor on the bottom from the Chris Columbus movie. It's quite striking. This cool key light and this sort of warm fill light. It's not very. It'd be like something that you would see if there was a really cloudy day in the window and then there was a really warm lamp on the other side. And you can kind of create that effect. I mean, it's not unheard of, but it looks a lot more natural to see it the other way. And if you keep, if we watch this whole little clip here, you'll see the same thing with Ron, much warmer in the old one. Same thing with Hermione. Even though there's a strong backlight, notice how much better lit the face is. Look at these really harsh shadows, this harsh overhead lighting that we have going on here, and just the tremendous amount of shadows that were probably kind of brought up in post so that you could get a little bit more detail on the face. Same thing here. Look at these harsh shadows on that side of the face. There's one strong key light and really no fill light at all. Whereas Draco Malfoy here, I'm trying to remember the actor's name, there's a key light over here, but look at how strong and warm this fill light is over here. And really, this is probably the key light because this is part that's facing, and we have a bright fill light to show like another light source. But it's very warm. He has normal, natural-looking flesh tones, whereas he looks extremely kind of over pale. Now, oh wait, oh my gosh, the new Snape, he has a much warmer flesh tone, doesn't he? It's much darker, much more hale-looking. Okay, so there's one exception. The new Snape looks a little bit more hale and a little bit warmer and a little bit less cold. But even here, you guys, they re-swapped him. But of course, even here you can see that there's a real warmth to the normal flesh tones and a warmth to this. This looks very yellow, whereas this has a more natural tone to the background of what's going on here. Very gray, again, warm. Even with a strong backlight, we're still able to see the face really well. McGonagall, this more looks like candlelight. This looks like an unnatural light. It's very cool, very strong shadows. Candle and firelight, by the way, produce a lot more diffuse light. So if you want something to look more, I guess, old-timey, you create more diffuse and more warm light. Again, harsh shadows on the face, a really kind of very backward-facing fill light over here so that you get this kind of half in the shadow face. There's still good shadows in the original here, but you notice how much more the details of the face are filled out. So why is this, is the question that people are often asking. Why does film look so much better? Because this was shot on film and the new one is digital, presumably. Well, the answer might be a little bit different than what a lot of people think. So I think that the reality is that film is not actually better than digital. I think digital is superior in every technical way that you can think of. It can produce a sharper image. You can capture higher contrast, higher dynamic range. It can be manipulated in all kinds of different ways. It doesn't contain a lot of the artifacts that we associate with film, like film grain. That film grain is a distortion. You can find it pleasing, but it's like tape hiss. It's not really a part of the visual element that you're attempting to capture with a photograph. It's just one of the artifacts of film. So digital doesn't have to deal with film grade. So why does digital look better? And the answer, what does film look better? And the answer has to do with everything that surrounds film versus the medium itself, or the media that you're using to capture the scene itself. And it's not that film produces higher detail or anything like that. It's that you have to light the scene correctly when you're going to shoot with film. Because you don't have infinite dynamic range, because back then you couldn't do as much post-processing on the image, you had to light it correctly right from the get-go. You also had the reality that film cost a lot of money. And in order to edit film, you have to cut film. It's not as easy as sliding, getting into Premiere Pro and sliding lots of faders around and moving lots of clips around on a timeline. It's a lot more difficult to edit film, even with some of the technology that made it easier later on. It's more effort. So you want to shoot things first and correct. You want to get them lit correctly from the get-go. You want to get them shot correctly from the get-go and not rely on all of the post-process stuff in order to fill in for your mistakes. When you're shooting digital, you can just kind of assume that someone can pop into their video editing program and fix all of your color grading mistakes, or take a creative approach to color grading. Let's make this part cool, but we want this part of the shadow to be warmer. There's all kinds of things you can do with modern technology that make the initial shooting of it lazy. Plus, there's all the preparation that goes in. Actors have to prepare their parts because you can't just do infinite takes. You have only so much time and so much film to work with. So you want to prepare ahead of time. You can't just take 30 takes and then edit them together into something that works. You really have to do fewer takes and hope that they're right when you're shooting with film. So that extra preparation can improve the quality of the acting, I think, as well. And I will make the comparison to analog recording. As a musician, this is more in my realm. A lot of people think that analog recording is better than digital. And it's better than digital not for any technical reason. Digital recording is infinitely better in every conceivable metric that you can think of. It's higher resolution, it's better detail, it's easier to work with. There's pretty much digital's better across the board, with maybe the exception of certain analog paths for recording certain things, like analog amplifiers, using a tape machine to record drums so that the peak of the drum has the compression that happens with an analog circuit. But that's, you could probably duplicate all that digitally, just recording with enough headroom to add that in after the fact. Really, digital is better in every conceivable way. Well, why did analog recordings end up sounding better? And the answer is because of that preparation. It was because of everything surrounding the analog recording approach. You had to be well prepared before you got into the studio. You had to know your parts. You did a lot of pre-production work. You recorded demos. You got your band together. You rehearsed the parts so that when you went into that expensive studio, because you didn't own the studio, and you had to pay for all the tape, that you were just going to spend that time tracking your parts. You weren't going to spend the time learning your parts. You weren't going to spend the time writing the music. Now people will write in the studio, and in the studio might just be their spare bedroom, including high caliber albums. And then you don't have to pick the best take. You don't have to settle on a really good take. The perfect is the enemy of the good. You can edit and record each measure and each phrase separately and fade them all together so they sound like one seamless thing. So I'm reminded of this example here, like how You can have all these happy accidents that probably wouldn't happen in a digital recording environment. And that is Master of Puppets by Metallica. There's this screeching note on the Master of Puppets song in Kirk Hammett's guitar solo that he didn't mean to play. The E string like slips off the fingerboard for a second and makes this really high harmonic pop out, and Kirk just went with it. And so when you hear that high squealing note, its energy was really perfect for the song, but they couldn't ever duplicate it. And because of the nature of analog recording, you can't just re-record and re-record and re-record and re-record. It actually will destroy the tape. So you have problems of destructive recording. Each time you punch in and punch out, you're degrading the tape a little bit. So you have to kind of pick the best solo. And rather than trying to do more takes on that solo, they just went with that one. Even though there's some imperfections that happen, especially in the recovery of that note, that energy for that high squealing note just matched the song perfectly. So that's what you went with. And the music industry's full of examples of that. You're playing really good, you mess up right at the end, you do the radio fade because we got to keep that take. We don't want to spend a bunch of money on new tapes. You're just going to roll with it. You're going to leave. You're going to pick the best take, and it's going to not be perfect. But the energy feels better on analog stuff. And you also, that preparation made it so that when you went in, it felt more like a live band, even when you were recording track by track, because the band had actually rehearsed most of those songs. Nowadays, that's not really the case. So I can make the same, an analogous argument to film, in that film, everything surrounding film changed the approach to the way that you filmed, from lighting to rehearsals to production schedules and things like that, which produced a product that people end up liking more, even though if we're just looking at the technical specifications, digital is probably superior to film. It's everything that tends to go along with it. But I would love your opinions. Like, have you seen the new previews of the new Harry Potter? Which one you think is more visually appealing? The very cool and cold new one, or the warm, brightly lit Chris Columbus movies? Anyway, I'd love your opinion on that. Let me know down below, and I will talk to you all next time. Have a great, great day.